2, 3, hit back.
Do I go? Are we rolling?
You can go.
Okay, we're rolling. February 22nd, 2018, the Be Different podcast is here, and we have the usual crew. We are all here. I've been a little bit sick the last few days, and you can probably hear it in my voice, but I've had my Dayquil. I have a Fresca in my left hand, so I'm feeling okay now. I'm moving to a more positive direction. We have Nick Given. We have Greg Richard across the street, how I like to say it. Greg, how are you today?
Good. How are you, Brad?
I'm doing very well. Nick, how are you today?
I'm also well.
I like how we keep it tight.
This Fresca is so refreshing.
Yeah, it's kind of hitting the spot right now.
I've never had one.
It's very good.
It's good.
It's like a Sprite, but a little bit better, a little bit less sugar.
Wait a minute.
Wait, who is that?
Do we
didn't
now
even know.
have
I forgot Andy was here.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Brad. No respect. Do we now have a sponsor that I haven't been told about? Is Fresca now a paying participant?
This is our pitch.
I didn't even know
yeah.
they made Fresca anymore. I thought they had discontinued that brand.
You
What
are
happened?
not helping the pitch.
Well, Fresca is a product of the Coca-Cola company, for those of you that did not know. So I guess maybe Fresca wouldn't be our sponsor, but Coca-Cola could be our sponsor. So, yeah, if anybody on the drink side wants a sponsor, especially Kicking It Old School with Andy Mack, which is what we're talking about right now, I mean, that would be great. I think we would be very much open to that. Andy, would you be okay with that?
I'm into Jolt. Jolt Cola. Remember that would double the caffeine. I need that. I need that Jolt.
You're not a man that needs a jolt. You're always excited. You're always ready to roll. You're very spry. Is spry the correct word?
Spry regarding me physically is no longer the case. No,
mentally, you're very mentally spry.
Mentally, I'm still all right. From the neck up, other than the face, if you put a bag over the face, I have a face for radio, as I've always said.
No, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. People love seeing your face on Kicking It Old School with Andy Mack, Andy. They absolutely do.
They need a trip to their optometrist.
Well, Andy, I don't want to bring this up, but I think we need to revisit this briefly.
Painful.
If we can revisit the matchup that was Villanova at Xavier at the Cintas Center on Saturday. Outside of Len Elmore continually calling JP Makura, I'm not sure why Len cannot figure out JP's name. That was pretty rough. Also, the play on the court was a little bit rough as well, Andy. Villanova hit 11 threes in the first half. Took that big lead early. Xavier crawled back in the second half, but unable to come out with the victory at home.
When Villanova shoots the rock the way they did, 16 made threes, which is an all-time opponent's high against Xavier in any game. Even in a practice, I don't think anybody's hit 16 threes against the Xavier defense.
Never happened.
When Villanova plays like that, they're going to be impossible to beat. Home, away, holidays, neutral court, I don't care. An aircraft carrier in Taiwan, they're not going to get beat. And Villanova, fortunately for the Big East, maybe unfortunately for Xavier if they ever play him again in the Big East tournament or maybe in the NCAA tournament, Villanova's getting better. Their freshmen are getting experience because of the injuries, and Phil Booth is back.
I know
he's
he played
their
last
best
night.
Perimeter defender. I think he's their third best player after Brunson and Bridges. Better than DiVincenzo because Booth actually plays defense. So Villanova's on a roll. That's good for the Big East. It was not very good for Xavier at the Cintas, but I give the Muskies a lot of credit. They're down 19 with 1 minute left in the first half, and it looks like they're going down like the Titanic. And they eat it back to about 14. Then they continually chip away at that Villanova lead. There's 12:45 left in regulation. They're only 3 down, and then that horrendous officiating situation with the double technical fouls, an extra personal on Paul Scruggs, which nobody brings us. That took him out of the game. He'd been playing terrific. I mean, Tyreek misses the bunny. If he makes the layup, we don't have to talk about this. It's a 1-point game, but he missed it. And the whole thing was adjudicated very poorly by the officials. I think that Jay Wright, Mr. GQJ. I mean, the guy's great. Everybody loves him. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread, etc. He bitched the hell out of those officials. I mean, he earned his money. It was Coach K-esque.
It was well
done. The way
he
intimidated those officials.
He did.
He got the call he needed. How they came out of that with Villanova ball and no free throws shot is beyond me. It's a technical foul on Spellman, who initiated the whole thing. He was pissed off at Scruggs because Scruggs had been doubling down and digging on him and making his life miserable. It should have been a technical foul on Spellman. It was a jump ball signaled by one of the officials. Should have been Trayvon blew it at the line, 2 free throws, 1-point game, Xavier ball under the basket. And it ends up Villanova ball, no free throws. How the heck did that happen?
Yeah, that was definitely a play that kind of changed the course of the game in that second half when Xavier, as you said, was very close to making that run. But there's something about Villanova that Xavier just seems to struggle with. Just 1-10 against Villanova since joining the new Big East. I think for Xavier fans, though, what's so frustrating about this game is you look at Xavier's depth, you look at how well that they had been playing on a 9-game win streak before that game against Villanova at home, and it just wasn't able to get it done. I mean, what happens in the Big East tournament when we go against these guys? Is there anything that Xavier can do to play with Villanova and come out with a win?
I just hope that they do not shoot the hell out of the ball. And in a championship game, and that's the only way they can play for a third time prior to the NCAA. It's Saturday night, Madison Square Garden, March 11th, I believe the date is, on Fox against Villanova. And if they both get there, I think a #1 seed is very possible for both teams. So the game, other than winning the Big East title, tournament title, is not irrelevant, but it's sort of like immaterial.
Yeah, and obviously a disappointing game to see that loss, but still likely a #1 seed. So you take a look at Xavier after that game against Villanova. They play at Georgetown. Kind of a scary game. Georgetown's a team that's been playing very well. The first game at the Cintas Center went all the way to overtime. It took a Trayvon Blewett 4-point play to take that game into OT, but the Musketeers really played well last night. Yeah,
I was extremely impressed. Georgetown came out shooting very well. That skinny freshman Pickett hit 4 threes in the first half. I mean, he completely shot up that 1-3-1 Xavier zone, and Xavier down, I think, 40-38. Blewett used up all his luck on that 4-point play because he was sort of not a passenger.
He was a non-factor last night.
Non-factor, and Xavier still wins 89-77 against a Georgetown team that had been playing very well. They'd won 2 in a row. They won at Butler. They beat Seton Hall. They'd been playing everybody very close, as Xavier found out at Cintas. And Xavier steadied. They got other contributions big time. Najee Marshall played out of his gourd. He scored a career-high 21. He's just coming off Big East Freshman of the Week. He's going to win it again. Xavier rebounded the ball against a very physical team, rebounded it well, 11 offensive boards. That was impressive. Quentin Gooden he didn't miss a shot. He played a super ball game, 19 points, a career high for him. And JP picked up the slack for Trayvon Blewett, and he had a 10-point personal run in the first half to keep it, within range. And I thought it was a great performance.
Yeah, I thought Najee was great from beginning to end. The first half got a little bit uncomfortable too. When Nick, are we okay in the background here?
Yeah, we had a little ad.
I heard a little something in the
cinematic ad promo.
Gotcha.
I thought the system was going down. I got really scared.
Okay, all right, we're all good now.
We're safe.
Okay, well, Andy, I want to go back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off like that, Andy. I apologize.
Question: Were you?
Yeah, the peanut gallery over here.
Sorry to cut you off. How scared were you when Quentin went down?
Well, it didn't look good. I mean,
it looked really bad.
Paul Scruggs ran into his own guy, which does happen. And luckily, they didn't take him into the dressing room. And Gooden is he's like chipped out of granite. That kid is strong. And he came right back in after about 2 or 3 minutes. Xavier fell behind by 7 while he was out. And boom, right back on the floor. Hardly missed a beat from there. And as I said, ended up with 19 points, 5 for 5 from the field, 6 of 7 for the line, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists for Quentin Gooden.
When you kind of got that weird feeling in the first half, too, especially Pickett hit those 3 threes early, and then to end the second half, Xavier's up 38-37. Pickett hits another one that looked like he had no chance from the corner as well. And Georgetown goes up 2 points going into the half. Got to credit Xavier for the way they played in the second half, even with Trayvon Blewett going out. And Najee, from beginning to end, was great. Quentin Gooden played a great game, as you said. And J.P. McCure looked more like himself, being more of the aggressor on the offensive end.
I think Georgetown played way over their head shooting the basketball in the first half. And physically, Xavier should have been up by 8 at the half. They really dominated the boards. They were much more aggressive on the defensive end. Other than Pickett and Govan, the guards certainly didn't show up for Georgetown. They got a big problem at point guard. I think their best option is to play the grad transfer Trey Dickerson, he's fast on fast. He just can't shoot free throws. I mean, he's like a 40% free throw shooter. If he were better at the free throw line, I bet our friend Mulmore, the JUCO, wouldn't even get the warm up off.
Yeah, he's got great speed, and he can blow by you in a hurry, and sometimes he looks great. But between free throws and just at times not making great decisions is probably what holds Patrick Ewing from playing him all the time.
And I think defensively, if you look at the plus minus, he's got to be a minus. I mean, Quentin Gooden manhandles a lot of other point guards just physically. He's so much bigger, stronger, and more eager to attack the rim. And Scruggs is becoming that type of player. He's looking much more comfortable with the ball, attacking the rim. And actually, Xavier's on an upward trend here. If you disregard some of the defensive numbers, and actually they played pretty good D against Georgetown. And the 3 young guns are playing better and better. Najee Marshall, obviously. I'll throw Quentin Gooden into the mix. He's just a sophomore. And Paul Scruggs. Those 3 guys are playing more and more, and they're playing a lot in key end-of-game, end-of-half situations. Defensively, those 3 on the floor are probably part of the best lineup that Xavier can throw out there. And defensively is obviously very important.
Well, and they're a big piece of Xavier's depth and a big reason why they're in the position that they're in right now. One question I have for you, Andy, on the trio of bigs in terms of how they're being played right now. Sean O'Mara didn't play until under the 10-minute mark. Do you have any issue with how the bigs are being played right now? Because I feel like they're having a hard time getting to a rhythm right now.
As far as I'm concerned, especially based on last year's end of regular season NCAA situation, the more of Sean O'Mara I see on the floor, the better I like it. And he may have some deficiencies as far as foot speed, although I sort of doubt it. He's a great pick-and-roll player. He is willing to bang with anybody, and look at what he did. He scored the winning basket against Arizona last year. He played solid all the way through that vital stretch at the end of the season. I think our friend Tyreek Jones is just maybe a little rusty around the rim and finishing because of the shoulder injury. I don't think he's gotten the reps that maybe he needs. And now with his bye week between Georgetown and the senior night game on February 28th at Cintas, I think it's time for Tyreek to get back that edge in practice and finish more off around the rim. Karem Cantor right now, against certain teams, he's going to be very effective, but he is definitely the weakest of the 3 in terms of defense. Defensive rebounding, he's fine. I mean, he gets in great position, boxes out, etc. But, there's a reason it's a 3-headed center monster. Nobody is a dominant player. They all have their roles. But right now, I like O'Mara. I think he is he's trending the right way for a senior. He wants to finish strong. He's sort of a deep thinker, and I think he's a leader on that team. And I thought he played really well against those 2 Georgetown bigs.
Yeah, and the game against Georgetown, that was a big one to get. I think that was the one you look at the schedule after losing to Villanova. That was the one that kind of scared you. Now you get a break. this weekend. You come back home for senior night against Providence, a very good Providence team, but being in the Cintas Center on senior night, you have to feel good about that. And then you go at DePaul to finish out the regular season. And there's no cupcakes here. DePaul is playing better. They have a better team than what they've had in years past, but you got to think the Muskies feel pretty good moving here the last 2 games of the regular season.
Yeah, X is 13-3 in the league. If they win the senior night game against Providence and then go up to Chicago a week from Saturday and beat DePaul, they're going to be 15-3. And the worst they can do is share the Big East regular season title with Villanova.
Is it shared even though they don't own the tiebreaker?
Yep, that's the way it works.
That's the way it works?
It's total record, and the head-to-head does not come into play until, if they end up with identical records, obviously Villanova with the 2 head-to-head wins is going to get the #1 seed in the Big East tournament, which gets them the 12 noon game in the quarters on Thursday. It gets them the winner of the 8-9 game, not the 10-7 from Wednesday. And they also, if they play again in the Saturday Big East Tournament Championship game, Villanova gets to wear their home uniforms. Big deal. Who cares?
Who cares? Not a big deal at all. We're still champions, right,
it's
Andy?
Good for the managers.
Right.
It's good for the managers.
Nick, how do you feel about that?
Absolute bullshit. Like Villanova should get the title unequivocally.
Why?
Well, they
beat you twice in your tie.
Well, Xavier beat the 2 teams that Villanova didn't beat twice. I mean, Butler beat them once.
Yeah, but
Xavier beat Butler twice.
But Butler's 9-7 in the league.
Xavier beat St. John's twice. Villanova lost to them on their home floor. What's the big whoop? That's the way it works.
They beat your ass twice.
We're talking about a body of work, 18 games, home and home, double round robin, and Xavier and Villanova they each get a banner. That's the way it is. I don't care what you think is fair or right or not. We're taking it.
It's crap.
And they're going to lose, too. Villanova's they have to play at Creighton on Saturday, at Seton Hall, and then they're home against Georgetown. So they're going to lose.
Yeah,
they're going to lose.
Xavier definitely has the easier schedule down the stretch, and we're already technically a half game ahead with 13 wins compared to Villanova's 12 wins.
Brad, what do you really think about it?
Well, I think if it goes to the end of the year and Xavier and Villanova have the same record, I think Villanova is the #1 team in the Big East. I don't think there's any debate there.
Well, you petition the league, the presidents of the universities and the league office, and get the rule changed.
I'll get the rule changed.
In print, they are co-champions.
In print, they may be co-champions, but I know for me as a player, if I'm playing in a conference like the Big East and I'm tied with another team in first place and they beat me and my team 2 times, I mean, I'm giving the nod to that.
Well, you have an Atlantic 10 mindset, Brad. I'm sorry.
I got 3 of those championships.
That's true. You played the game. Whatever.
So
I could argue with you.
Well, and that's where I was going with everything else. The Fresca? Are you taking a little bit of? What's that?
It's great. The Fresca is great.
Yeah, Fresca is good.
If you consider that you may be addicted to that stuff, there's a 12-step program you need to get in to get away from the Fresca.
I'm within half of my first can ever. So no, not yet.
Well, Andy, I feel
it's pretty quick, the addiction to Fresca. I'll tell you, it's almost like opioids.
There you go. Basically an opioid.
Well, Andy, I think after we've got to talk about Xavier, and we've been able to separate ourselves from the loss. You go on the road again, you win another game. That's Xavier's 5th road game in a row that they have been able to win, Andy, since that loss at Providence. I still feel very excited about this team. There's very few matchups where I don't feel confident in Xavier's ability to guard. Villanova is the one team I do not want to see in the NCAA tournament, and we likely won't have to see them.
The only way that Xavier and Villanova would meet in the NCAA tournament would be fortuitous for everybody. They're not going to be in the same region. It would be at the earliest a national semifinal game. In other words, a Final Four on a Saturday on CBS in San Antonio. I'd take that. And I'd take my chances against Villanova and hope that they have trouble with a shooting background in San Antonio and they throw up a bunch of air balls.
Yeah.
I mean, would that be great to get 2 Big East teams into the final? Now, everybody would say, oh, it's not the old Big East in 1985 when St. John's, Georgetown, and Villanova all made the Final Four. It's, it's the requiem to the Big East. They're playing that damn thing on ESPN again, that 30 for 30 requiem for the Big East, which was made like 5 years ago.
I would love that.
ESPN hates the Big East. That guy Seth Greenberg, who never made an NCAA tournament at Virginia Tech, he actually said that the Big East is off Broadway on ESPN. I mean, in the studio, the Big East is off Broadway. That's what he said. Seth Greenberg. Get a life.
I agree.
Yeah,
The new Big East, the old Big East was great, right? They had depth, they had history, they had culture, but the new Big East has that as well. And I think the new Big East has a great style of basketball. I think top to bottom, obviously it's one of the best leagues in all of college basketball right now. And you got offensive players everywhere. Every single team right now, there's offensive players all across the board. There's great guard play. I mean, if you want to watch good basketball, the old Big East was great. The new Big East was great. I think you just have respect for both and understand what you have right now isn't changing, and it's great basketball.
It's a different era. It's the era of the three-point shot. It's the era of up-tempo, quick shooting, et cetera, et cetera. And the Big East is right at the top of the charts in terms of points per game, shooting percentage, efficiency, on and on. I mean, it's maybe the most exciting basketball in the country.
I agree. And Andy, Xavier has a lot to be excited about. There's still a lot left for them to play. A couple of games left that could get them that championship in the Big East. Then they'll have the Big East tournament, NCAA tournament. Before that, though, we will have you back here. Senior night is on Wednesday, so we'll likely get you after senior night on Wednesday. But Andy Mack, as always, you are fantastic, and we look forward here to the end of the season.
You know, Brad, I got a little geared up, a little revved up on a couple of issues. That officiating deal in the Villanova game, it might not have made any difference because they were playing so well, but it did. It did bother me. It took the drama out of the final 12 minutes of that game because I thought Xavier they needed everything to fall into place, and it was. I mean, they were right there, and then. Whatever. I mean, I looked at the video. Maybe I looked at it through Xavier-colored glasses or whatever. But I thought it was a bad adjudication there by those officials. But that's the way it is. I was very thrilled. Not thrilled, but I liked the result of the Georgetown game, the way that was played, and a win over Providence, a win over DePaul, and this team is going to zip into New York with a lot of momentum. A lot of momentum, a lot of energy, and a chance to get that #1 seed in the NCAA tournament, which mean a lot, not only the players and the coaches, but also the fan base. So it's a long time coming for Xavier, I think, to get that seed. I'm pretty greedy. I'd like the #1, but I'd like it to be in Omaha in the Midwest because I can rent a big van and drive out there. That'd be great. I don't want to fly to Los Angeles. They're going to screw me at $600 to fly out there. I'll ride with you there, Andy. I don't like that city. We'll make it happen. Morally, ethically, it doesn't line up with my Midwestern values. Yep. So, Andy, we appreciate you coming on. We got Keith Jackson, who just walked in the door. He is coming on next to the Be Different podcast. But, Andy, that is Kicking It Old School with Andy Mack.